I just want to say that I don't have a skin disease, I just have a sunburn, and now my arms are peeling. Moving on. Those who still keep up with the legacy media might have been led to believe that Israel recently conducted a massacre of innocent Palestinians who were protesting the US Embassy's move to Jerusalem. See, the Palestinians have a very different idea of what a protest is than we do. You see, when they protest, they throw rocks, and I don't mean like pebbles, I mean like fist-sized rocks, at people. In addition to throwing Molotov cocktails, various different firebombs, a few different gases they've been playing around with. Yeah, it's like an Antifa-style protest. No, seriously, it's really over the top. In fact, they do this thing with burning tires. Now, I've seen this for years, and I've often wondered, why are they burning tires? And there are a few reasons. One is they like to build up these burning tires next to the border, so they can try and burn down and get rid of the border fence, so they can easily invade into Israel. That's one of the reasons. Another one is so that when the tires burn, it lets off this black smog, so nobody can see anything. Well, that prevents Israeli snipers from being able to shoot them. Now, I know, if you've been reading the New York Times and the Washington Post about just how evil the Israelis are, you're thinking, snipers, they are evil. But bear with me, because the reason that they're using snipers is so that they can individually shoot the people who are the most violent, the worst of the worst. They're trying to not have to shoot indiscriminately. That's what they're trying to do. They're actually being nicer than I would be. I mean, if someone was throwing massive bricks at me and Molotov cocktails, I wouldn't be that nice. I gotta be honest. I just wouldn't. But over there, they are actually being that nice, but the Palestinians won't allow it. Them and the Hamas, the terrorist group that is backing them, they won't allow it. Instead, by making this black smog area, the Israelis are forced to fire relatively indiscriminately into a crowd of people who are attacking them. Now, part of this maximizing injuries and deaths on the part of Palestinians, is actually intentional by Hamas, by this terrorist group. You see, they're actually paying the Palestinians to go and run in and attack the Israelis. They're paying them to get injured and in some cases to die. More deaths, more injuries, more money. That's so that they can get international pressure on Israel, and to some degree on the United States too, as Israel's ally. So we can think about just how wonderful and innocent the Palestinians are, and how noble their cause is, and how maybe we should give them some of Israel's land. That's what they're going for. Now, so they're actually maximizing innocent deaths, their own innocent deaths. And they did this misinformation campaign that is so evil, where Hamas told the Palestinian people, they said, you should come join us, join our effort, against the Israelis, because the Israelis, they're running away. They're fleeing their posts. They actually said this. So you had people who wouldn't have otherwise been involved, go and join the fight, in the belief that they wouldn't actually get shot, when of course they would, because the Israelis did not abandon their posts, and Hamas knew it. That is so evil, because Israel had dropped leaflets on Gaza that morning to try and say, stay away from our border. We know what Hamas is doing, just stay away, and you'll be fine. So you can see the clear evil that on the part of Hamas and the Palestinians here, compared to what Israel is actually trying to do here, to try and be like the moral one in the situation. An Al-Qaeda terrorist recently said something. He said, Tel Aviv is also a land of Muslims. And what he meant by that was, Tel Aviv, which is where the embassy used to be, it's the second most populous city in Israel, it should be owned by the, quote, Palestinians. all of Israel should be owned by the Palestinians. Because that's the end goal. You see, they're promoting this idea that they just need a little bit of land. They just need, say, Jerusalem, right? That they don't need all of Israel. But in fact, groups like Hamas and Al-Qaeda and various other extreme groups, that is actually what they want. And that's what overwhelmingly now the Palestinians want. They just want to get rid of Israel. It's theirs. And they want to kill all the Jews too. That's what they were chanting. They're not just making up that they want to kill the Jews, but that was actually what they were chanting. Kill the Jews was a slogan of theirs. You know, it wasn't, give us Jerusalem, or some other, we want more of our land, or even, please stop shooting us because we're innocent. It wasn't any of that. It was kill the Jews. Literally, you couldn't make it up or make it any more abrasive. Let's be nice, let's call it abrasive. Seriously. Now, an Iranian group recently pledged to give $100,000, the equivalent, to anybody who blew up the US embassy in Jerusalem. Now here is the culture problem, the Sharia-style culture problem. Imagine here in the US, if an organization said, we'll give $100,000 to whoever blows up this building of whatever we don't agree with. Can you imagine that? Because I can't. I know that if they did, the FBI would show up. Culture problem. Because over there, nobody shows up. So you wonder why we have problems with Iran? It's stuff like that. That's why we have problems with Iran. And I know we're being called the warmongers, but seriously. I mean, and that culture that's in Iran is also what's in Gaza. It's what the Palestinians are holding on to. To prove this, I want to show you how they're raising their kids. See, there are several videos of their children, and I'm talking not teenagers, kindergarten-age children, who are being taught to hate the Jews and to kill the Jews. Like literally in little army-style outfits. Let's play kill the Jews. They had these school plays in which they acted out. I'm going to show you one. Okay, here we go. So now you've seen it. And that's what I mean by a culture problem, because that doesn't exist in a vacuum. Now, I'd like to Americanize this issue. So what if the Mexicans in Mexico were staging protests where they said, Texas is our land, and as a result, they were throwing, say, Molotov cocktails, or rocks, and rocks inside of, like, slings, like biblical style, you know, at US troops and at Texans? What then? Would we have a right to defend ourselves? Because I think this is necessary to kind of look at it in this sense, because, you know, when it's a place that's that far away, it's more difficult to empathize and to kind of dehumanize without ever meaning to. So, looking at it here, you know, the Mexicans are over there and they're throwing firebombs at Texans and at US troops. Would we care what the international community said? Would we be less moral for shooting at those people? No. No, we wouldn't be less moral. And, my gosh, it would be the right thing to do. It would be the only thing to do, to defend the innocent people over here in Texas from the aggressors in Mexico. I mean, I hope it never comes to that, but seriously. I mean, it's just indisputable. But because it's so far away, it's easy for the press to kind of make stuff up and try and, blur the lines. But the lines shouldn't be blurry. This is actually a very clear case. Israel as a country has a right to defend its borders. The Israeli soldiers have a right to defend their families. And by the way, you know that black smog? Well, one of the reasons for it too is so that they can try and kidnap Israeli soldiers. You know, so they can torture them, like the moral people that they are. And also so that those petroleum fumes can flood the area and result in more sickness and problems, because that's not exactly healthy stuff to breathe. Yeah. On both sides, because you can't control that. You can't control the way the wind blows. So they're actually getting both sides. This terrorist group, Hamas, is getting both sides and doesn't care. If you wanted to see who was right and who was wrong, it should be, my gosh, so clear. Now, when Christians commit acts of, just wanton violence, they're sinning, right? When they're actually the aggressors. When they do what, say, the Palestinians are doing now, it would be clear from the Bible that they're doing something wrong. They'd be sinners. Now, the problem comes in because their book doesn't say the same thing. Like, when they go to commit conquest, they're doing exactly what Muhammad did. He literally wanted to spread Islam by the sword, and did. So when these Palestinians want to take over Israel and want to acquire that land as, quote, Muslim land, that's what they're doing. They're spreading Islam by the sword, and they're doing what's literally in their holy book. Now, when it comes to Christian violence, you couldn't justify what the Palestinians are doing. I mean, in Christianity, you can have this concept of just war. And you can look up what a just war is. One of the concepts, for example, is that a war is just if by engaging in that war, you're doing less evil than if you were to do nothing at all. Right? The better of evils. That kind of thing. Right? When looking the other way is an evil in itself that results in more death, more problem. Just war. And there's a lot more than that, but that gives you an idea. In Islam, it's not like that. They talk about terrorism and jihad. I don't mean terrorism as a buzzword that the media uses. I mean putting terror into people. Terror of people with machetes and so on. And in the modern age, Molotov cocktails and firebombs. Yeah. So this is a people who teaches its young children to kill Jews, who chants, "Kill the Jews," who throws firebombs, who ended up getting their own people killed through various methods of deception. And the Israelis are just literally defending themselves. They're literally defending the border, using far less force than I think a lot of people would. And you want me to be honest, and this is very politically incorrect, but a lot less force than would be justified, than would actually be just. I know. If you read the New York Times, you certainly wouldn't think that. Alright, now, that's all I have to say for now, but my gosh, look away from the legacy media because there's so much fake news. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share with your friends, that would be awesome. If you want to subscribe, that would be cool. Do hit the bell, because otherwise you will not get notified of new videos. I also have a link in the description as to other ways that you can subscribe and be sure that you'll actually be notified when I put a new video out. If you'd like to support what I'm doing here, producing these videos on a regular basis, at least once a week, then please look in the description. I did provide several ways that you can support what I'm trying to do. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Health-wise.